Hey, and we're back with CN Live here on NRA TV. I'm Bill Whittle, sitting in for Colion. I should be back tomorrow. And we're talking with our friend Sonja Bochow from Right Wing News, which is an organization I've been a fan of, and they've done links for my essays and videos for 10 years now, something like that. Sonja, here, we talk about this, a lot of the same stories, the high-level stories. We talk about Comey and Gorsuch and stuff. Is there anything out there that's kind of underneath I don't want to say under the radar exactly, but that's maybe not like an A-list headline that you find particularly interesting? Anything you're working on in that kind of something maybe we didn't hear about before?
Well, something that's near and dear to my heart is politically educated young people. Like I said, I am a mother of four. My oldest turned 20 today, and he voted for the first time in a presidential election this past November. I have a
Happy birthday.
17-year-old daughter in high school, and it is my absolute passion that young people be educated on what is going out there with the insidious, I will call it poison, of liberal thinking. It is everywhere. It is throughout their schools, their faculties, their administrations, their fellow students are sort of have been brewing in liberalism for many years. And it is my children in particular are noticing that literally their friends do not seem able to think critically, to form an opinion based on evidence and facts. And so this would be something that is near and dear to my heart.
The essence of progressive philosophy as it exists today is basically you're not allowed to make any kind of a discernment or value judgment of any kind. You can't say that this piece of art is better than that piece of art. You can't say that this culture is better than that culture. You're not allowed to make any kind of value judgment on anything. And I think it's because liberals and progressives think that if you don't have an opinion on anything, then there's nothing to go war about and fight about and all the rest of this nonsense that they believe. But you're absolutely right. And you have to credit the left in the same way you sometimes have to credit the devil. They understand that if you spend your resources on young people, it's just a matter of time. I mean, we've been to events, I'm sure you have too. I've been to Republican events, Tea Party events. You look at the crowd and the average age is, deceased. And it's a very powerful thing that the left is doing, because not only do they guarantee that these people will grow up to be indoctrinated with their political philosophy, but young people are much, much easier to sway than older people. That's why as you get older, most people tend to become Republican. It takes a while for life to beat the stupid out of you, basically.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would also say that there is hope. I have many friends, many conservative friends, who are doing an excellent job raising their young people to be able to think critically. But there aren't enough of them out there yet. So as you're saying, we've got young people that are not able to think critically about these things, not able to assess the current political situation in terms of actual evidence. It's really based more on emotions and feelings, and you hurt my feelings, and because of that, you're a bad person. And this is really about the level of logic that I'm seeing out there and that my children are seeing out there.
That's exactly right. I've spoken at a bunch of colleges and spoken in front of some pretty hostile audiences with, largely progressive students. And I think the one thing that's the most shocking to me, I don't know if you've gotten this sense either, but the thing that is absolutely the most amazing to me is how easy it is to flip these people. Honestly, I think I could flip the average college student. I'd need less than 10 minutes to do it. Problem is there's 10 million, 20 million of them. I don't have that kind of time. But their arguments are so shallow, and they're just repetitions of bumper stickers and their chants, right? I mean, if you go to a Tea Party event, for example, or if you'd gone to one when the Tea Party was really, really burning along in 2009, 10, 11, you would be subjected to 4 hours of maybe 12 different speakers. They'd be talking about the Federal Reserve System. They'd be talking about the Federalist Papers. They'd be talking about everything about how this government works or should work. You go to a left-wing rally, and all you get are, hey, hey, ho, ho, Donald Trump has got to go. They think on the level of 4-year-olds because that's basically where their development was arrested by this liberal school system.
Yeah, and that's really, I think you've nailed it with that. It is sort of seems to be like an arrested development issue. For instance, in one of my children's schools, we had a faculty member who literally stayed home the day after the election and wrote a letter to his students explaining that he just couldn't possibly come in. He was so
Hmm.
emotionally distraught over the election, and then proceeded to lecture the students about politics and why Trump was bad and you should not be a Republican, and all of these things that were really actually outrageous, that a faculty member would think that they even have the standing to do something so inappropriate. They are there to show young people what it looks like to lose with grace. And this particular faculty member did not.
Not only did the faculty member not lose with grace, I think the most amazing thing I saw during the entire election year, and that was a heck of a year last year. There are so many things about Hillary Clinton that I despise and I've despised for a very long time, but I have to tell you, what I'm about to tell you is certainly not the worst transgression in terms of magnitude, but to me, it told me all I need to know about this woman, and that's simply this. At the night of the election, she had thousands and thousands of supporters waiting for her in New York. Many of them were waiting outside, and it was cold that night. And Hillary Clinton could not pull it together enough to come and basically give a concession speech. Now, maybe you could say, well, she just wanted to stick it to Donald Trump. That in itself is childish, petulant, and adolescent. It's just like everything else the left does. But when you leave your own supporters out there and you don't even have the respect to go out there and tell these people who've worked for 6 months, a year, 2 years for you and say, hey, we gave it our best shot. It's you guys were fantastic. We just didn't quite get there. The selfishness of that. And look, I'm not the person to be breaking these rumors. Most people were saying she was just so drunk she could hardly stand. Don't you find it odd that Hillary Clinton, whose entire career was based on the idea that women are just the equal of men and they can handle stress just as well as anybody else, is the first candidate in my memory anyway, who was so upset at an election loss that she was completely incapacitated?
Yeah, I think really what you saw there on election night was a failure of leadership. Here is a woman who is running for office to be essentially the leader of the free world, who is so emotionally distraught at losing that she does not even come out and address her supporters, as you noted. That is a failure of leadership. A leader rallies his troops when
Yes.
lose and comes back to fight another day. My daughter is doing a project for National History Day on the Battle of the Brandywine. That is a local battle to where I
Mm-hmm.
happen to reside. And General Washington lost that battle. But there's a lot about that battle that was instrumental in bringing the winning of the war, so to speak. So when you're losing, that is not the time to abandon your troops and let them just do their own thing and wonder what in the world happened to our so-called leader.
That's right. That's right. Exactly right. Small minds push the blame downwards and push the credit upwards, but actual leaders do just the opposite. The blame stops with them, and all the credit goes down. And that's how it should be. Hillary Clinton should have come out there and basically done what I just said. You people could not have done a better job. I cannot tell you how hard you worked. You know how hard you worked and how much it means to me and the rest of the Democrats in this country. I somehow didn't connect with the message, and you can't go away feeling like you didn't do enough. It's entirely my fault. That's leadership, and she doesn't have a particle of it in her body. And speaking of Hillary Clinton, Sonja, it's starting to look like one of these pretty bad kind of B horror movies. Where you kill the monster and the monster goes down and everybody relaxes, and then the monster jumps up again, and then you kill it again, and then it jumps up again, and you drive a stake through its heart. She's talking about running for mayor of New York. She's saying, I'm going to come out of the woods, based on that picture of her walking around with her dear beloved husband, Bill, after the loss. What is it about this woman, do you think? Or forget this woman. What is it about the Democrats and liberals that seems to us to indicate that politics is oxygen for them?
Yeah, well, I will say this. I recently wrote an article again for Right Wing News about Hillary's speech at the Society of Irish Women on St. Patrick's Day up in Scranton,
Mm-hmm.
where that's where she made that remark that she's ready to, quote, come out of the woods, of course, referencing that photograph that you're talking about of walking in the
Mm-hmm.
woods, Chappaquiddick, where they live in New York State. And, the idea that she's ready to come back on the scene, I'm not sure how much more clear a message she needs from America to know that we don't want her to come out of the woods, that we're good with her staying home at this point and not getting back into the political scene. New York City has a record of a string of extremely liberal progressive mayors who have progressively, as they are wont to do, made the city more and more difficult and expensive to live in, and less freedom. I mean, New York City
Yep.
does not need Hillary Clinton any more than the nation needed Hillary Clinton.
No, I think that's exactly right, Mrs. Clinton. It's time for you to go home now, and take your lech of a husband and your insufferable daughter with you. Would you mind? We've seen enough. It's not like we need more airtime. I think we've made a pretty clear decision on the Clintons, but they're like the Walking Dead. They just won't go away. Sonja Bochow, thank you so much for joining us from rightwingnews.com, and say hi to John for me, will you? You guys are doing terrific work out there.
I sure will. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. Yeah, New York City is an interesting case. If you look at all of the murder pits in this country, all of these super high crime areas, Chicago, for example, Chicago's gone 85 years or 89, one of the other, I think it's 85 years. 85 years in Chicago without a Republican mayor or city council. Atlanta is 135 years without a single Republican mayor or city council. New York used to be the murder capital of the country, and their murder rate was horrific. Under David Dinkins, it went just through the stratosphere. And then a Republican decided to run for mayor, and Rudy Giuliani, former prosecutor, and Bill Braxton, a police officer with some really interesting ideas, decided to see if they could get elected. And when they did get elected, they applied conservative Republican principles to New York City. To New York City. If you break a window, you're going to jail. If you urinate against the side of that building, you're going to jail. If we put these people in jail for the small things, then the big things will take care of themselves. And that is exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. New York went from being an absolute pit of pornography and drug addicts to Times Square now is like Disneyland. And that's all the result of Republican policies that have finally been put into place in one big city. You could do it in Detroit and Chicago and Newark and all the rest, but people are just constantly told that, that this horrible situation is good for them, and Republicans are the source of all evil and all problems. Maybe they'll wake up after a century or so. Well, I got to tell you, it's always been fun to sit in on this show. I love my friends over at NRA TV. Colion Noir is out doing something cool, I know for an absolute fact. He'll be back tomorrow. I'm Bill Whittle from BillWhittle.com out here in Los Angeles. Been a pleasure guest hosting for Colion this last couple of days, and I have a feeling I'll see you around back here on NRA TV.